Demo 7.4. Let's take a look at the blood supply to the pharynx and the larynx. First up, we have the superior thyroid artery, here in pink. It's a branch off of the external carotid artery, and it gives off a branch, superior laryngeal artery, here in yellow. The superior laryngeal artery pierces the thyrohyoid membrane, runs between the middle and superior constrictor muscles of the pharynx on its way to supply the mucosa and the muscles of the larynx. Next, we have the inferior thyroid artery, here in blue. It branches off of the thyrocervical trunk, and it gives off a branch, inferior laryngeal artery, here in orange. The inferior laryngeal artery dives deep to the inferior constrictor muscle of the pharynx on its way to supply the mucosa and the muscles of the larynx. Lastly, not pictured here, is the ascending pharyngeal artery. This is a branch off of the external carotid, and it supplies the muscles and mucosa of the pharynx. Let's look at innervation of the pharynx and the larynx. First, we have the glossopharyngeal nerve, here in yellow. It exits the cranium via the jugular foramen and supplies somatic motor innervation to the stylopharyngeus muscle. Not pictured, cranial nerve 9 then continues inferiorly as it gives off many branches that contribute to the pharyngeal plexus, providing sensory innervation to the pharynx. Next, we have the vagus nerve, here in green. It exits the cranium via the jugular foramen and gives off many branches that contribute to the pharyngeal plexus, not pictured here. Of these vagal contributions include parasympathetic innervation, as well as somatic motor innervation of the 5 remaining pharyngeal muscles, including the superior, middle, and inferior constrictors, the salpingopharyngeus, and the palatopharyngeus. Next, we have sympathetic innervation from the superior cervical ganglion, the white swell here. Postganglionic fibers are sent to the pharyngeal plexus by hitchhiking with the arteries that supply this region. Branching off of the vagus nerve, here in pink, we have the superior laryngeal nerve. The superior laryngeal nerve divides into the internal laryngeal and the external laryngeal. The internal laryngeal in orange runs with the superior laryngeal artery, pierces the thyrohyoid membrane, passes between the middle and superior constrictor muscles on its way to provide sensory innervation above the vocal folds. The external, in purple, descends inferiorly and pierces the inferior constrictor muscle, supplies the cricothyroid muscle with somatic motor innervation. Lastly, we have the recurrent laryngeal nerve, here in light purple. It loops around the subclavian artery and it ascends superiorly with the inferior laryngeal artery. It terminates as the inferior laryngeal nerve, not pictured here. The inferior laryngeal nerve supplies sensory innervation below the vocal folds and somatic motor innervation to the posterior cricoarytenoids, transverse arytenoid, oblique arytenoids, lateral cricoarytenoid, and the vocalis muscle.